Oh man, I'm sorry. Freaking out.
It's okay. Just talk. See.
Take your time.
I don't even know how to begin because I'm scared.
But tell us what you did. What was your crime? Tell us what you did.
My crime was armed robbery. I robbed somebody that I just should never done. This is something I just should never done. I should never been there, but I was, and I regret doing what I've done. And I didn't mean. I wish I would have never done that. It's like the biggest mistake of my life.
We are about to watch the commutation hearing for a woman who was sentenced to 20 years without the opportunity for parole for an armed robbery. Now, they don't bring this up in the hearing, but I have access to her appeals, and it turns out that this armed robbery, it was done with a BB gun. And not only that, it wasn't her holding the BB gun, but the man she was with. Now, you might say, look, it doesn't make a difference. The people being robbed, they have no idea that that's a BB gun. But 20 years? That just seems odd. That seems bizarre. Anyway, she's asking the parole board to commute her sentence so that she even has the opportunity to get parole. Let's see their decision, and I'll unpack it at the end.
So you're here this morning because you submitted an application for sentence asking to, for a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in August of 2009 for simple burglary in Washington Parish. You received a 2-year sentence. And then in 2012, also in Washington Parish, armed robbery and armed robbery with use of a firearm. And for that, you received a 20-year sentence for the armed robbery, 5 years for the use of a firearm. Those are running concurrently. So it's a total of 20 years. You are not eligible for parole, and you have a good time date, which is March 27, 2027. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, ma'am.
So this morning, Ms. Butler, would you take a moment before we hear from others and tell us what landed you in jail? Why are you in prison? Why have you submitted an application for a commutation of your sentence? And why do you think we ought to vote favorable for you today?
Okay, first I want to apologize for what I've done. Oh, I'm nervous. I'm sorry. I don't even know how to start. I'm scared.
Just talk.
I'm sorry for what I've done, and I can't say that I didn't mean to do it because I know I've done it, but the person that I used to be, I'm not her anymore. I was just really young and was going through a lot. Oh man, I'm sorry. Freaking out.
It's okay. Just talk. See.
Take your time.
I don't even know how to begin because I'm scared.
But tell us what you did. What was your crime? Tell us what you did.
My crime was armed robbery. I robbed somebody that I just should never done. This is something I just should never done. I should never been there, but I was, and I regret doing what I've done. And I didn't mean. I wish I would have never done that. It's like the biggest mistake of my life. And I'm so sorry to that family because I know I've done them wrong, and I know it's probably scarred them for life. You know, I just wish I would have never done. Oh, I feel like I've the girl that I used to be. I'm just not her anymore. I'm not immature anymore. I've grown a lot. I done got my GED. I got my associate's degree. I got my bachelor's degree. I've been working my whole time here. I have a job on maintenance. I've been on maintenance for 5 years. I've learned how to fix things, and I really enjoy that. Like when I was at home, I had jobs here and there to where I wasn't into the jobs, I would say, but now I know how to work and earn what is for me. And my biggest goal right now is I just want to be a mom. I just want to go and be a mom to my kids. And I do thank y'all for trying to hearing me out. And I'm sorry I'm breaking. I'm sorry. I'm nervous.
That's okay. We're gonna hear from the other folks and we still gonna talk to you again, so
Yes, ma'am.
have a moment to collect yourself. Let's ask Miss Cootie, what can you tell us about Amber?
Amber's been here with us about 10 years. So she has definitely grown. She's taken advantage of everything we have. Like she said, she got her GED. She has her associate's and her bachelor's degree through Ashland. I mean, she has worked hard. And I have Miss Fountain in here with me also, that is who she works for with maintenance, if you'd like to speak with her.
We'd like to hear from her. Ms. Fountain, what can you tell us about?
First of all, I'd like to say good morning. I'm here and I have a maintenance crew and Ms. Butler work on that crew with me. She's grown from the time that I started. I've been there like 4 years. I used to do transportation and I changed position and she's been under my supervision since then. From the first day when she first started working with her, and up until now, there has been a big change. There has.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. We appreciate hearing from you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll hear from your family members who are here who want to speak on your behalf. First, we'd like to hear from your daughter, Haley. When you speak, I want you to speak loudly so she can hear what you're saying.
Hi, my name's Haley. I'm a good mother. I just want to say that I'm very sorry for everything that she did. I know she's very sorry too. But I just want my mom home. Like, I really just want to know her. So I'm adopted. I haven't adopted at 3 years old. And I don't even know who she is. I've never met her. That's all I wish is to be able to know her. And I know that she's working on a better life. And I have faith that she's doing better. And I really hope that y'all can see that. And then y'all choose to let her out just so I can have my mom back.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Right. That's a good job. Jordan, can we hear from you? What's this? Butler's brother.
How you doing? I'm gonna start off introducing myself. I'm Jordan. I'm her younger brother. 33 years old. I'm a tugboat captain. I have a beautiful fiance. We have 2 kids. Keep it constant. Keep in constant touch with my sister. Through how we get to talk to her on the app and get the text back and forth and FaceTime. Genuinely, I do think she has grown. She has come to the prime and she's done the time, and I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that she is where she is for what she's done. And I wouldn't deny it. Like you said, like she said, that she has grown as a person. She's doing school and things that she probably wouldn't have done if she wouldn't have gotten incarcerated. She may not have grown to be a better person by this. This is probably what helped her. You know, we grew up in New Orleans in the city, so I'm not going to say you are who you are and you make the decisions that you make. People you hang around with can cause you or make you to do the wrong things. I've grown a lot. I've never been convicted of any crimes, anything, but I know moving away from the city and growing to be a person and a father and a soon to be husband is all the choices that you make. I talk to people that we hung around, my sister that we grew up around. They're very surprised at the man I've become to this day, and I hope that I can do the same for my sister. I think she's doing what it takes to grow as a person and show that she wants to get out and be a woman and a mom. You know, she got 2 beautiful kids. if she gets out soon, hopefully she's still got a few years to at least, raise her younger daughter on, you know, things that she can show not to do and to do and, you know, things like that. We already have 2 possible jobs lined up for her if that accommodates for if she gets out and they approve them. We already have 2 jobs possibly lined up for her. Places to stay. She was more than welcome to stay at my house. She's gonna be more than welcome to stay at my mom's house. And I've already told her that she already knows too. If you come home and you live with me, there will be rules. There will be things to follow. You will be on the right path. You won't be coming here and running the streets and doing none of that. It will be all getting your job, focus on whatever you gotta do to better yourself and enjoy all the years that you lost. I lost 14 years with my sister. But I'm hoping that that comes to an end and get our relationship back and be brother and sister and be a happy family. Thank you, that's all.
Well, thank you for being here and thank you for supporting your sister. Awesome. All right, and Ms. Arlene, let's hear from you, please.
Hi, my name is Arlene. I'm nervous. It was wrong. And the first thing I like to do is start off by acknowledging what she did wrong. She's aware, we are aware. And we are remorseful as a family for the action she took that day. And the person she thought she was that used to. Like my son said, it's taken a lot of hard work for her. She's had a lot of struggles where she's at now. But she's been overcoming a lot of things. And her family, and this is only just a couple of people of her supporters, that are ready to take her and make come home to her daughters. This is kind of a young baby that was actually born in April, so she never really got to know her that much. We do have jobs, like my son said, we have jobs lined up for her, and I just know she's not the same person. Like she said, either she did a horrible thing back then, and I know she, like she said, she never ever wants to go back where she is. Now she wants to maintain her job, she wants to raise her kids, she wants, my husband and I, we're getting to that age, we have health problems, and we may not be here if she has to stay a lot longer. So we'd like to have our daughter back in our life. It's been 14 years of a 20-year sentence. And I'm hoping y'all will see. At least give her a chance, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks for being here. All right. Ms. Butler, Amber, your case has been assigned to Mr. Tillis. Would you answer any questions he may have?
Well,
Good morning, Ms. Butler. How are you?
good morning. How are you?
I see that you've made some improvements. You've taken a lot of classes.
Yes, sir.
That's good. Tell me what happened. Why were you robbing people?
Okay, honestly, at that time, I was going through a situation with my oldest daughter to where the state, my half sister had my oldest daughter. She was raising her because I couldn't get my life together. I couldn't find a place to live. I couldn't find a job. And then something happened with my sister and my youngest baby to where the state came in and took my oldest daughter. And then I was going through trying to get her back. I couldn't find a job. I ended up getting the house with her father, but I just couldn't hold a job. And then they made me sign my rights over from her. And then from there, I lost my baby, and then she was my world. And I don't know. I have no excuse for it. I don't, because this is just something I should never have done. And I regret it every day of my life for that. I don't know. I was just trying to live, I guess. Oh,
Were you on drugs at the time?
I smoked weed. Yes, sir.
Alcohol?
I don't drink.
So you were doing these robberies by yourself?
I was hurting out my kids' father. It was just wrong. I was around the wrong people.
I see. Well, you know, the choices we make are the choices we have to live with.
Yes, sir.
That's kind of bad. So if you're released, or when you're released, what do you plan to do?
I want to find like a good job. I just really just want to be a mom to my kids. I want to be able to work an 8 to 5 job, and I don't even care what the job is, as long as I can provide for my family and work hard for what. How do I say that? Work for what I deserve, and provide for my for my family and stuff. I just want to be reliable, and I don't want to be somebody, but I want to be a mom that they could look up to and say, great job, mom. I'm proud of you and I love you, and stuff like that.
I see.
Uh,
I have no questions.
Any other question?
Let me ask, so you burglarized a store, correct?
yes, sir.
And you got caught
Mhm.
and you got a deferred sentence and probation for that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Burglary. And while you were on probation, you got convicted of drug paraphernalia,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then a couple of years later, how many years later was it when you did the armed robbery?
Almost 2, I think, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken.
Okay, and why did it says in here, you picked the victims. Why did you think they had money, or was it a dope deal you were trying to think they might have dope?
No, it was just random people. That family was just rambling. That's the only person that ever had that family was the only person that it ever happened with.
Okay. All right. That's all. I'm just trying to get all the incidents straight.
So Amber,
Yes, ma'am.
what are you seeking today? What are you looking for?
For a second chance at life, to prove myself that I'm not the same person I used to be, and I'm different.
I understand, so you submitted an application for clemency.
Yes, ma'am.
You have an out date, which is 2 years away.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
what are you looking for today? Are you seeking parole eligibility? What are you looking for?
That parole, yes, ma'am. To going home earlier than the 2 years, to get home to my family and rebuilding my life.
Well, let's, what's your conduct record look like?
Like my behavior.
You got any write-ups?
No, ma'am, I haven't had a write-up in like 10 years, I think.
All right, I'm asking the questions about what you're seeking today because the clemency process is very lengthy. If you even were to receive a unanimous vote that was in your favor today, it could take more than 2 years probably to get it processed all the way through, even if the governor was inclined to sign it. So I was just trying to determine specifically what it is you're trying to seek to. So you said you want parole eligibility. Or which would be through a parole.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I don't have any other questions. The panel prepared to vote? Mr. Tillis, you'll be voting.
Today, Ms. Butler, my vote's going to be to deny because of strong law enforcement and the crimes that you commit. I'm really pleased that you're doing what you're doing, and I hope you keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Mr. Prater.
I concur with that. You're gonna be out 2 years anyway, and nothing that we granted today would have helped you in any way.
Still possible.
It is.
It is possible.
Okay, well, my vote's to deny because of the fact that I was trying to make it easy on you and tell you, but I didn't want to put any more burden on you, talk about your past. But My vote is to deny because of your criminal history in the past, the burglary and then the violation while you're on probation. So deny.
Mr. Freeman.
My vote is to commute to 15 years with immediate parole eligibility. I think she's done a great job in prison. She was, young when all of this happened, and I think the interview was great.
Thank you.
That's my vote today.
All right, Ms. Butler, you've received 2 votes to deny, 1 vote to support your commutation request. So you know what the outcome is today because it requires a unanimous vote. My vote would have been to commute your sentence, but not commute it to 15 years, just commute it to make you immediately parole eligible. But the outcome of today's proceeding is that your application's been denied because you didn't get a unanimous vote. But I echo what Mr. Freeman has said. I think you should be proud of yourself. I agree with what your brother said, that you probably have had some opportunities there that you wouldn't have had you not gone to jail. So you've got a lot to live for. We see 2 beautiful young ladies here that are anxiously awaiting you coming home, and you will be there. March of 27. Good luck to you.
Thank
Be
you.
proud of yourself. You've done a good job.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
Too, thank you. All right, that concludes our business at LTCW. We're going to sign off at 10 a.m.
Okay, and there you have it. And they denied. And look, I like what Mr. Freeman was kind of saying, which was, you don't know, you never know if the governor might get that piece of paper on his desk and sign it. And the truth is, we have seen it both ways. We have seen commutation hearings that land on governor's desk and take 5 years to get signed. We have seen where they don't get signed at all, but we have also seen where they get signed really quickly. We have seen it. And I think that's what Mr. Pete Freeman was alluding to. And they should have granted right then and there, in my opinion. You are sending a message. You're sending a message to all of our fellow inmates. If you put you can get rewarded. You're sending a message to her family, in my opinion, which is, look, you put in hard work, you can get rewarded. Now, some might argue, well, you're sending a message to the family, you do the crime, you do the time, but I am not, that is not my stance in this scenario. 20 years, 20 years. That makes no sense, in my opinion. This is not an habitual offender. This is not a real gun. No one was shot. She didn't even hold the BB gun. And we'll go through some of that information. And look, she should have done the time. And furthermore, she made the best of her. This probably saved her life. She comes out with a bachelor's degree. I don't know in what. They didn't say it, right? I missed it if they did. But that's incredible. Yes, this probably arguably might have been the best thing for her. But then you come to this conclusion. Yeah, grant, even if the governor doesn't sign it, you're sending a message. And man, this stuff pisses me off. I don't understand the logic behind it. And maybe they're thinking, we just don't want to bother our governor. Remember, they're handpicked by the governor. They know the governor. They're friends with the governor. And for them, maybe they don't want to put the governor in a weird situation, or they're going to put all this paperwork. But I disagree. There are some people that maybe they deserve it. And not only that, but in my opinion, this sentence is criminal in itself. There is no reason you get a 20-year sentence for this kind of crime. But we have seen it before, and we're going to watch a hearing after this, a bizarre hearing. A woman who got locked up, I forget the number of years, something crazy like this also. And it was a sting operation where her live-in boyfriend was the informant and set her up to do a controlled buy. She was not a dealer. She never sold a day in her life. She was connected through her boyfriend for the controlled buy to do some type of sale, and then they threw the book at her, and that makes no sense either. It's crazy stuff in Louisiana. You can essay your own child and get probation. You essay your own child and get 3 years. But you do something that you piss off some DA or some judge, and man, forget about it. They will throw the book at you. And it's just the strangest thing. I do not understand it. Now, about 5,000 of you have seen the parole hearing that we're about to play. And for those of you who already seen it, I want you to know I'm not just replaying this stuff because I have nothing else. There are other things I can do. But if 4,000 of you have seen it, and I have and this channel is 80,000 plus subscribers. That means that so many of you have not yet seen it, and I just feel it's a hearing that needs to be seen. It's again, I think, an injustice that is happening, and that's why I think it's also important to show. But before we do, let's just go over this appeal. And thank you so much, Holly, for filling in with this information while Sir Richard was out because of his eyes. And they don't go through a lot of details on this crime. You don't even know what they did, what they robbed. They only go through her appeal where she states that, where they state that it was a BB gun and that she wasn't even holding the BB gun. And basically she was saying it shouldn't have been classified as a firearm. And don't get me wrong, I've seen enough parole hearings and heard enough victim impact statements where it doesn't make a difference. It's a gun from the victim's perspective. The victim feels like, oh my God, I could have died. But it does, in my opinion, it should make a difference when the judge is doing sentencing. If you do an armed robbery with a loaded gun, then screw you, because why are you bringing a loaded gun unless you intend to use it? But if you bring a gun that's not loaded, that, in my opinion, should be viewed differently. You bring a pellet gun, even more so, it should be viewed differently. But the judge, I don't know why. Not only that, let me put it this way. Holly pointed this out, and this is crazy, is that they initially sentenced her to less years. And I don't quite understand this, but it seems that when she appealed, they changed their mind and gave her more time. So they initially, and I could be wrong on this because it's confusing to me, but they initially, look, she was sentenced to a term of 10 years and 5 years to run consecutively. That's 15 years, right? So that's not 20 years, that's 15. So where did the other 5 come from? Because she pled guilty. She didn't even go to trial. She didn't say, you know what, I'm going to go to trial. And she probably was expecting a couple of years at most. And they give her the 15 without, and look at this, not only that, but it's without probation, parole, or suspension of sentence. And again, this is 2012. This is like 1970 Louisiana. It makes you wonder, how is this why is it that those who would do the worst kind of crimes get nothing? And here, when she says, you know what, I'll plead guilty, and they throw not even parole eligible. I don't understand this. I just don't. It's like when you see these things, it makes you just scratch your head and then say, what? So you're saying like the legislation allows, but then we see people that are getting parole eligibility left and right for stabbing and shooting and doing the worst, July 9, 2012, the state district court granted the state's motion. Then basically someone at the DA hated her so much, they said, no, we're going to file a motion to allow us to resentence her. And they resentenced her. Like, to 20 years. It's the most bizarre thing in the world. And then this is her appeal, where it goes on to say that second count of bill. Okay, filed a motion to quash second term of the bill information and charge petitioner with using a firearm to commit armed robbery, factor with triggers, and using a firearm to commit the armed robbery, a factor with triggers an unadditional penalty, blah, blah, blah. Defense counsel argued that a BB gun had been used during the robbery and that such a weapon should not be considered a firearm. The state district court denied that motion, which I understand. Okay. Petitioner then subsequently pled guilty to both armed robbery and the additional penalty of using a firearm, subject to the reservation of her right to appeal the denial of the motion to quash. On direct appeal, the Louisiana First Court of Appeal then affirmed the convictions and sentencing holdings. I just don't know. Can you imagine pleading? Like, I need to hear what the judge said at this point. Like, what? Like, they agree on a deal. They certainly had some type of sentence in mind. It seems she only had one other robbery on her record. And they just didn't care. And it's like, well, again, I would love, I guess you got to check out these judges' records and see how else are they doing other sentencing, because there's no other way to make sense of it. But there you have it. They threw the book at her. She made the best of it. It worked out in the end. You might argue like she's getting out anyways in 2 years. But man, if there's ever a time that you should reward someone, send a message to the other inmates, send a message to the public, send a message to her family. Even if the governor doesn't sign it, the board should have, in my opinion, said, we are going to reward you by doing this. And I'm also just don't understand the DA and the judge and the whole thing. But we're about to watch another hearing that, in my opinion, is even more insane than this. Like I had said, they made a felon out of someone who was not a felon. They locked someone up for a very long time for being a dealer who was not a dealer. And it's just, I think the biggest it's just insane. There's no way to put it. So with that, let's jump in.
There's always another side of the story. Tell me what the other side of the story is, because we've handled just today as a parole board, we've handled some with juveniles and different things where grown men, 30, 40 years old, but with 10-year-olds, and they would get 10, 20 years, that sort of thing. 25 years for first offense distribution or possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute, that seems, I don't want to second guess the judge or anything, but just in globo across all of Louisiana, that seems pretty significant. Why were you given 25 years?
This case is insanity at its finest. She was actually sentenced to 40 years and she got 15 years knocked off on appeal. This was her first felony. She was just a middleman set up in a sting operation and they threw the book at her. We will go over all the details because she has 3 appeals. Thank you, Sir Richard. And the appeals include her PSI report, which goes over her history or nearly lack thereof. Why a judge would sentence her to 25 years for distribution and another 15 years for attempted distribution to run consecutively over the age of 40, basically locking her up for the rest of her life. And when she did not have a clandestine lab, she was not a big time dealer. As a matter of fact, she had a hard time finding the narcotics. Someone came to her and said, hey, let me pay you above market price for X, Y, and Z. She went to her dealer and said, can you give this to me? Let me sell it to this person. That's all she did. And the judge gave her 25 for the distribution and 15 for the attempted, because the second time around, she didn't get to do it. That's when they finally laid the cuffs down on her. This type of stuff just blows my mind. It's not that dissimilar from the case where the man got nearly a life sentence for stealing items from a car, right? And with the habitual offender bill. And we see corruption. We see corruption in the judicial system. But what I think is a little wild about this one is that you'd expect this corruption to happen maybe in the 90s during the 3-strike rule, you're outlaw, or maybe in some prior, day that would, but no, this case happened in 2016. This is recent stuff. You really can't make it up. It's scary. And this is not an habitual offender bill. This is simply a judge throwing the book at someone who said, I'm not going to take a plea deal. I'm going to go to trial. And like the sheriff stated, what is shocking about this is that we see those who harm children that get put away with nothing, slap on the wrist sentences, but then they go after a mother. They go after a woman who has no prior felonies, who has some misdemeanor charges on her record, and you try to lock her away for life. Make it make sense.
Tanya Sandifer, 741247.
Offense class, your first offense.
Yes, sir.
Offense, attempted distribution of Schedule II methamphetamines. distribution of Schedule 2 methamphetamines again. Sentencing date was December 4th, 2018. You were sentenced to 25 years of hard labor. Your parole date is August 29th, 2024. Your good time date is November 29th, 2025. Your full term is February 25, 2043. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. You were distributing drugs, you were selling drugs also?
Actually, that was the very first time that I did and the last time.
First time that does. I see. I'm going to ask my colleagues if they have any questions. Ms. Stapleton, do you have any questions?
I might. I'm gonna let Mr. Prater go first. He's pretty good on these kind of questions.
All right. Mr. Prater?
Okay, I noticed that the sentencing judge mentioned that you've been found, you've been charged or found guilty or violated some kind of rule at the jail where introducing contraband or something. Tell me about that.
That was I had a watch, a smart watch, and I wore it into it wasn't connected to a phone. I wore it into the jail, but the charges were rejected.
So it wasn't drugs.
No, sir.
Contraband wasn't drugs.
No, sir.
Okay, what kind of plan do you have to stay away from drugs? I noticed you said you don't have a drug problem anymore, and it's my understanding that once you have a addiction problem, you always have one, and it may have just been the way you said it, but what do you plan to do when you get out to stay on the straight and narrow?
Once you're an addict, it was said wrong. Once you're an addict, you are always a recovering addict, and I will be in recovery for the remainder of my life. However, I do have a strong support system with the ladies at Paul's that I've met through working for the shelter. Also, I have a church that I'm going to join as soon as I am released. Also, I have 2 jobs lined up that I'm going to be working. I'm going to stay busy, and I plan on joining NA or, seeking self-help programs.
There's always another side of the story. Tell me what the other side of the story is, because we've handled just today as a parole board, we've handled some with juveniles and different things where grown men, 30, 40 years old, with 10-year-olds, and they would get 10, 20 years, that sort of thing. 25 years for first offense, distribution or possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute, that seems, I don't want to second guess the judge or anything, but just in globo across all of Louisiana, that seems pretty significant. Why were you given 25 years?
That whenever they offered, I had never been in trouble prior to this. So whenever was offered an offer, I didn't know. I was guided to refuse it, that the plea would go down. So it went to trial. And whenever it went to trial, that's when I got the 25.
And how many years have you been in jail since the time you were arrested?
How many years? Approximately 7.
So you served 7 years of a 25-year sentence for possession of meth with intent to distribute.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I got.
Stapleton?
No, Mr. Prater covered everything I was thinking.
I was looking too, as I read the report, that, your good time is November 29th, 2025, about another year. And I heard your statement about the plan you have if released. So I have no more questions either, and I was puzzled. I'm glad Mr. Prater brought that out. 25 years and you've only done about 7. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
All right, since I had your case, I'm gonna lead out. My vote today is to deny, simply because you've not served enough time, in my opinion. And I think you need to take some more classes in abuse. And the staff there speaks very highly of you, and that's good. I'm really happy about that, but my vote today is to deny. Ms. Stapleton?
Well, I have to say, I'm really torn. I wish they had like a Steve Hoyle for ladies, because that's a wonderful program for situations like this, but they don't. I'm gonna deny, but you only have one more year left. That's right, until your good time date.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen, you have every reason to feel good about yourself and every reason to believe, and you're gonna have to work on it. You're going to go to the NA and AA meetings and stuff. But I do wish you every good fortune in the world.
Thank you.
I'm going to deny today, but continue doing what you're doing, so that when you get out of there, this will be a page you're able to turn in a chapter of life. Okay.
Mr. Prater?
Of course, it doesn't make any difference, but my vote would have been to grant. I think that you've based mainly on what the folks that know you best, and that's the ones that you work with down there. And when the warden will stick their neck out, because they don't normally do that, when the warden sticks their neck out and writes a letter like that, and due to the fact that you served almost all of your sentence already, and you've been a model prisoner and done nothing egregious, I would have voted to. So I'm saying all that to tell you it makes no difference, because it's got to be unanimous. So you're not going to get out today. But I say all that to encourage you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so that's all I want to do. I would have voted to grant your parole, but hang in there. You're going to be out in a short while anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prater. Today, you've been denied your parole, and I wish you well, and this concludes our business for today.
Thank you.
We're signing out at 1:02.
And to add insult to injury, they deny. And ironically, it's the sheriff, Mr. Prater, who was the sheriff for like his entire lifetime. He's the one that grants. And I do love that about the sheriff, that even though he is in law enforcement, he sees that this is absolutely nuts. Now, you might say, well, look, they like to believe that the judge wouldn't possibly sentence someone barbarically. There must be some reason. You might say that that's why they didn't grant, but there's a few things. One is Mr. Prater, the preacher. If you've been watching this long enough, you would know that he's I'm sorry to say this, in my opinion, an incompetent board member. He should not have been handpicked by the governor. He has no pre-qualifications, and he hasn't improved over time. Then you have Miss Prater, not Miss Prater, Stapleton, the survivor's advocate. She's my favorite parole board member, but for some reason she denied. I like to think that maybe this is something she goes back on and actually regrets, because then you have the sheriff with the common sense that says, what is going on here? We need to grant you. It is insane. This is a woman, and I'll go over the appeal with you and her PSI report. She was picked on. I say like an undercover investigator that had like, I don't know, for whatever reason said, hey, we want to buy a bunch of grams from you, and we'll go over the reports and details. I'll just give you the overview. And she's like, all right, well, I can make some money. Hold on. She calls her dealer. The dealer gave her stuff. She sold it. It wasn't a lot, $600 or something. Then they went for another controlled buy. And they said, okay, we're going to do a little bit more this time. So she said, okay, let me call my dealer. The dealer said, okay, I'm going to deliver it to you. They go arrest the dealer, right? So now she had no one to rat on, because they already got the person higher than her. So that could have had something to do with it. They arrest her for the attempted. The judge gives her, they then say, we'll give you a plea deal of like 7 or 8 years. This being her first felony offense, she's probably like, ugh, made blah blah blah. She goes for a jury trial. She loses. The judge gets pissed off and gives her 25 years for the sale and 15 years for the attempted to run consecutively. So they're going to lock a 40-something-year-old mother up for 40 years. They go through the PSR report and she has a couple misdemeanors. That's it. That's it. For like possession of paraphernalia. This is psychopathic level stuff right here. Psychopathic, psychotic, insane, barbaric. This is happening in America in 2016. You know, they go through the expense of a jury trial and then locking someone up out of I don't, and it's like what we see happen over and over and over and over again with those who harm children. They won't take the expense of a jury trial. And then sometimes when they do the expense of a jury trial and they get a conviction, they don't give sentences like this. This is the hypocrisy. This is everything that's wrong with the system that we see over and over and over and over again. And if you were to, to tell someone this, someone in law enforcement, someone in law and order, they would say, you're lying. You don't understand the case. Maybe this was in the 90s, habitual offender, 3-strike law. You say, no. It's not. Here's the footage. Go take a look at it. This is a vindictive judge. And you know that there had to be 3 appeals. It went through the system on 3 appeals. When they overturned the 15-year sentence, the state fought back. They wanted this to go to their Supreme Court. Because how dare you take away 15 more years off of that sentence? The amount of money that they poured into locking away a nobody is insane. This should be investigated, in my opinion. This is what is wrong, the definition of everything wrong with our system. Like I said, it's similar to the case of the man who was given a life sentence for breaking into cars. He had three car break-ins that he was busted for over a 10-year period. And after giving him 12 years when he was about to be set free, the DA of that case pulled up his paperwork and only on the 12th year came and gave him an habitual offender to give him a life sentence. It wasn't a sentence handed down at sentencing. No, it was on the 12th year when he was about to get out, a man who broke into cars. All right, let's go over this. After a jury trial, Tanya was convicted of distribution of meth and attempted distribution. The court imposed a consecutive sentence of 25 years and 15 years. And keep in mind, don't say, oh, well, she would have gotten parole. No, because because it was consecutive, her 15 years wouldn't even start until the end of the 25. Okay, the defendant appealed. For the reasons that follow, we affirm the conviction, the vacate the sentence, or remand the trial for instructions. Okay, so here's the facts. Let's go over the facts of these heroic law enforcement officers that really took a villain off the street. And you know what? If you want to say it's not, let's not throw the book at the detectives. You know, maybe they were doing the right thing, right? Because they did get the dealer over her, and I'm sure they got that dealer to squeal, which got the person with the lab, and they probably had no idea that she would then have to spend 40 years in prison. So let me preface that this mistake happens with the judge, and I even see the DA. There was no, they didn't have to prosecute this like this. They did not have to give a hardball deal that they gave to her. Okay. The offenses were committed on May 10th, 2016. The sheriff's office of Louisiana and State Police Department were investigating narcotics crimes when Durbin was employed by the police as a confidential informant to confect the narcotics between Sanford and an undercover LSP officer, Sergeant William Moore. On May 10th, 2016, Sergeant Moore was working undercover using the alias Luke. I am your father. Sorry. When he met Sanford Durbin and Misty Holmes, it's actually interesting. I got a voice changer thing. I got this, finally bought this thing. So here, I'll do. Now I got that out of the way. And Sandifer entered the passenger side of Luke's vehicle. Sandifer told the undercover officer 1 ounce, approximately a 700. Wow, she's hardcore, $700. And that's what the markup, mind you, right? She's the middleman. The lab from the the methamphetamine from the purchase was transferred to North Louisiana Crime Lab. There, Sandifer and Luke exchanged cell phone numbers and texted one another over the next few days. Through a text message, Luke requested another narcotics buy in the amount of 4 ounces of methamphetamine. Sandifer checked with the supplier and informed the undercover agents that the price would be $2,450. Let's see what her markup was. I mean, I doubt I'll ever be able to figure out with inflation, but let's just do a Google search. Hold on. So there is like a website that I just checked out that actually tells you the street value in not only the state, but like the parishes. But my math is not good there. They break it up in like pounds and grams. So I don't know. I'm sure her markup is not that much. That, you know, maybe she's making $500. I'm just guessing, you know, like who knows? Anyways, he agreed to the price and the two agreed to meet at Gum Springs on May 16, 2016 to complete the transaction. Now, remind you again, this is someone who went to a woman who's not in the business of dealing and just saying, hey, you know, can you get me some? Oh, who's anyone living in this world would say sure. Due to the risk associated with large narcotic deals, the officers and the LSP case agent in charge of the operation decided to intercept the narcotics before they were delivered. And that's why she got the attempted. Okay. On May 16th, and I love their excuse on risks, or how about like maybe that's what they were doing to catch the big dealer? That's what I would assume. But anyways, on May 16, 2016, Ramonta Jackson Sandifer, alleged supplier, was apprehended by a state trooper while Jackson was en route to meet Sandifer. Some 4 ounces of substance was recovered from Jackson's vehicle and later tested positive. Luke Sergeant Moore, Sandifer met on May 16, 2016 as scheduled, but Sandifer informed him that her supplier had been stopped by state trooper. Sandifer attempted to find a second supplier. And here's again more proof to how she's not in the game. She says, my supplier was stopped. I'm going to find a second one, but was unable to. She is so low level. She is so irrelevant, insignificant, that she could not even find one other person that can help get her stuff. That is that not all the proof you needed? They are pathetic. They piss me off. 3 months later, they wait and they arrest her. 3 months later. She can't come up with anything for 3 months. She's a nobody. August 10, 2016. At trial, Sandifer testified that Durbin was living with her and that it was his idea to sell the narcotics. And in fact, it was Durbin who introduced her to the undercover officer she knew as Luke. The jury unanimously found Sandifer guilty of distribution, and by an 11-1 vote, she did not even a unanimous jury, found her guilty of attempted distribution. On February 19, 2019, Sandifer appeared for sentencing. The court stated that it reviewed the sentencing guidelines and concluded it should impose a sentence of imprisonment. Listen to this. Because any other sentence would not adequately reflect the seriousness of this offense. The court stated that the illegal narcotics are the source of most of the evil that occurs in the world. Really? Yeah, okay. It noted, and even if it is, it's not the point. It noted that the destructive effects of narcotics have on individual lives and families, and narcotics used to tear the fabric of society. The court also opined that distribution of narcotics is far more egregious offense than mere possession, and in this case, the defendant was convicted of distribution, attempted distribution, large quantities of finding no mitigating fact. No mitigating factors, really. Concluded that the facts of this case warrant substantial terms of imprisonment. Accordingly, the court sentenced her to 25 years of hard labor for distribution, and 15 years of labor for attempted distribution. The court ordered the sentences to be run consecutively because, of course, it wouldn't be enough to have them run concurrently. No. 25 years is enough. Let's do 40 years. She filed a motion to reconsider. Now, here's the discussion where they talk about it being excessive. They say it failed to consider that the role that her I guess the person she lived with wanted to sell it. Blah, 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 blah. And they end up saying, she ends up winning the appeal. So they knock 15 years off. But let's Let's go to the PSI. Watch this, because some of you who are skeptical will say, no, she's probably has a long record, No judge would possibly do something that is like unethical or like evil. I mean, I'm using these words evil. This is how I feel about it. The PSI shows it's not just evil towards her, it's evil to the entire system. The taxpayers, her children, everybody. Yes, she should have gotten locked up. Yes, she should have served time. But this is insane. And I might even argue that she shouldn't have served time, because you could also get away with a suspended sentence for this type of scenario. I would argue that, and let her fail parole or probation. Sorry. All right. Anyways, the PSI shows that a misdemeanor charge of so she had a misdemeanor charge of DV that was dismissed in 2009, and that's just one. And very easily, what happens in these cases is that she calls the police on him for DV, and the cops come and they see that they both have bruises and they arrest both of them. Like, this is not an habitual thing. This does not mean, in my opinion, this does not paint her a picture of who she is. And who on meth wouldn't get that anyways? All right, anyways, misdemeanor charges. Then she has misdemeanor charges of criminal trespass, 2 possession of paraphernalia. Charges were pending, so they weren't even convicted. And additionally, the PSR reports an arrest made on July 8, 2017 for possession of Schedule 2 after her arrest on the instant offenses. So that's it. That's it. That's her PSI report. That's it. No DUIs. No robberies. No. I mean, maybe the criminal trespass are like, but that's it. According to the transcripts of several pretrial plea hearings, the state apparently offered her a plea agreement where it would file no habitual offender bill. You couldn't file an habitual offender bill anyways. Habitual offender bill, you need 3 felonies over 10 years. And possibly offered a sentence of 9 years. And that's why she went to trial. 9 years is brutal for this. Yeah, you would have argued she should have taken it. She should have, obviously. You don't want to go to trial against, but Sandifer rejected all the state plea offers and instead chose to go to trial. And the DA's egos got the best of them. And this is, again, I will point to this case, and any of you watching this, whenever the DA states that we don't want to go to trial, the cost and this for child stuff, for children, just bring up this case. Remember, they do. When their egos get involved, they will go to trial. At trial, Sandifer testified that she had lived with Raymond, the confidential informant who set up the narcotics deal. And it's even so muddied. She lived with the guy who was the confidential informant. How low level is this? How low is this? They set up a confidential informant who then sets up the woman she's living with. This is why I thought a trial. Maybe this is why she thought she could win a trial. It's so dirty. She said that her electricity bill had been shut off and she cannot afford the required deposit to turn it back on. She knew that Durbin had engaged in narcotics activity in the past and was not surprised when he suggested introducing her to his friends involved in narcotics to raise money. The friend to whom she was introduced was a man named Luke, who was unknown to her, was actually a police officer undercover. Sandifer testified that Durbin insisted that she actually execute the transaction because she needed the experience in case Luke might need something more narcotics while he was not available at work. This is such a setup. She admitted that she did the actual transactions, but insisted that Durbin was the person setting up the deals. Of course, the jury found Sandifer guilty as charged. Now, in 2016, the sentencing range for distribution of Schedule 2 was a minimum of 2 years, but not more than 30. The judge could have sentenced her to 2 years. Imprisonment, hard labor, blah, blah, blah. At sentencing, the court disagreed with Sandifer's characterization of herself as a kind, naive surrogate middleman to the narcotics transaction carrying out the deal for Durbin. Contrary to Sandifer's account, the court viewed the evidence showing that Sandifer was not a rookie narcotics dealer and these transactions were not Sandifer's first rodeo, as she had claimed. The court vigorously expressed its view that illegal narcotics are a scourge. They're wrong. Where did they have proof they're wrong? The court said that it viewed narcotic deals as more culpable than narcotic users and sentenced. I believe for 100% that it was the first and last time. I sentenced Sandifer to near maximum 25 years for distribution of 1 ounce of meth and imposed maximum sentence in 15 for attempted distribution of 4 ounces. making a total term of imprisonment of 40 years, tantamount to a life sentence for a 41-year-old defendant. In this case, Sandifer was a first felony offender, and while she perhaps served as a middleman in the distribution scheme, she clearly knew that she was doing to make money. She sold approximately 28 grams, and subsequently attempted to sell 113 grams. On review, we conclude the sentences imposed by the courts are indeed very severe, particularly in a view of legislation intent to lessen the penalties for certain narcotic crimes enacting by 2017. So they found that it was absurd, but all they did was reduce it. 20 years instead of 30, and thus reduced the maximum sentence distribution to 10 years instead of 15. However, even Sandifer was sentenced after the amendment was in effect for offenses committed after 2017. The court applied a 2016 version of the statute where the offenses was committed. It was therefore within the court discretion to impose a near maximum sentence of 25 years. Maximum 15, we consider blah, 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 who at age 41, blah, 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 blah. You guys, I think you get the point. And here's the conclusion. For the foregoing reasons, we affirm that the conviction of the defendant, however, we conclude the record does not support the imposition of consecutive sentences in this case. Therefore, we vacate the sentence. And then they came back, and there are more appeals on this because the state didn't want to, my understanding, didn't want to give in, but I'll put those links in the description. Thank you, Sir Richard, for this. Often I don't do a 20-minute unpacking for an 11-minute hearing, but this case really triggers me, and I think it would trigger you as well. And then the insult to injury that they denied her parole. She is still locked up at the time of this hearing, which took place on 8/29/2024. So why they would lock her up? She has a perfect criminal prison record. She does everything she needs to do. The warden speaks outstanding of her. Let her go home. But the parole board members, not the sheriff, the other two, in my opinion, made a grave mistake. And with that, I'll let you go.
There's always another side of the story. Tell me what the other side of the story is, because we've handled just today as a parole board, we've handled some with juveniles and different things where grown men, 30, 40 years old, with 10-year-olds, and they would get 10, 20 years, that sort of thing. 25 years for first offense, distribution or possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute, that seems, I don't want to second guess the judge or anything, but just in globo across all of Louisiana, that seems pretty significant. Why were you given 25 years?
Oh man, I'm sorry. Freaking out.
It's okay. Just talk. Say.
Take your time.
I don't even know how to begin because I'm scared.
But tell us what you did. What was your crime? Tell us what you did.
My crime was armed robbery. I robbed somebody that I just should never done. This is something I just should never done. I should never been there, but I was, and I regret doing what I've done. And I didn't mean. I wish I would have never done that. It's like the biggest mistake of my life.